guys, hope you're all doing well. This is Kevin Neeld, and today I wanted to talk to you about the concussion and concussion-like symptom epidemic that is currently affecting hockey players. As you're likely well aware, concussions have knocked some of the NHL's top players out of the lineup this year. Milan Mikhailiuk with the Senators, Jeff Skinner with the Hurricanes, Letang with the Penguins, Peter Mueller with the Avs, Andy McDonald with the Blues, Mark Stahl with the Rangers, Mark Savard with the Bruins is still out from last season, and Sidney Crosby, too, is still sidelined with complications from a hit he took last year. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, so I was brought up a Flyers fan, and on that team alone this year, Claude Giroux, James Van Riemsdyk, Danny Briere, Braden Shen, and Chris Pronger have all missed time with concussions or concussion-like symptoms. Now, whether you're a fan of the Flyers or just a fan of the game, either way it's clear that concussions are a problem that need to be addressed. So before we start dissecting concussion-like symptoms, let's start out by simply establishing what a concussion actually is. In a consensus statement from the Third International Conference on Concussion in Sport in 2008, concussions were defined as a complex pathophysiological process affecting the brain induced by traumatic biomechanical factors. These can be caused by a direct blow to the head, face, and neck, or anywhere else in the body that transmits force up to the head. Basically, damage occurs secondary to the brain making contact with the inner walls of the cranium. This can occur as a result of the initial translation of the brain or the contact on the opposite side of the cranium as a result of the brain rebounding back. After sustaining a hit like this, players will develop any number of symptoms. According to the Mayo Clinic, concussion symptoms may include a headache or feeling pressure in the head, temporary loss of consciousness, confusion or feeling as if in a fog, amnesia or memory loss surrounding the event, dizziness or seeing stars, ringing in the ears, nausea or vomiting. They may also have slurred speech, fatigue, sleep disturbances, concentration and memory complaints, irritability and personality changes, sensitivity to light and noise, disorders of taste and smell, and finally, psychological adjustment problems and depression. As you can see, this certainly isn't a pleasant lineup of symptoms. If you or one of your players sustains a hit, no matter how seemingly innocent, and displays any of those symptoms, they need to be removed for the rest of the game. Early recognition of symptoms is key in preventing a second hit that can have exponentially more severe consequences. When in doubt, sit out. The Mayo Clinic says it best. No one should return to play or vigorous activity while signs or symptoms of a concussion are present. A couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to hear Dr. Josh Bloom, a concussion specialist, speak down in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he pointed out that 75% and 92% of repeat concussions occur within 7 and 10 days of the original hit, respectively. In other words, if these players would have just sat out for 2 weeks, the risk of sustaining a repeat injury would have been drastically reduced. It's extremely important that players aren't rushed back onto the ice and that they follow a staged return to play process. This is where a lot of players go wrong, whether they're unaware of the severity and long-term consequences of concussions, simply don't feel that bad, or have a big game that they don't want to sit out. Most rush back before they're really ready. The return to play progression is relatively straightforward. The first stage involves shutting down activity until no symptoms resolve. Once the player has no symptoms, so no headaches, no light sensitivity, no feelings of dizziness, no symptoms at all, they can progress to light aerobic activity. The goal here isn't to make progress in training the aerobic system, it's simply to add a slight challenge to the body's systems by increasing the heart rate and see if symptoms return. If they do, back to stage 1. If not, progress to stage 3. It's preferable that the aerobic activity is performed on a piece of cardio equipment such as an exercise bike, elliptical, or treadmill, so that the stress of processing external movement is removed. So at stage 3, the sport-specific activity stage can include some light skating and the introduction of moderate intensity weightlifting. The goal at this stage is to introduce more dynamic movement and a slightly greater stress to the body and see if symptoms return. From here, the player progresses to more high-intensity activity without contact, both on and off the ice, back to full contact practice in stage 5, and finally back to full clearance at stage 6. At each stage, The player can only progress if they are completely symptom-free while performing the activity, after the activity, and the day after. So if they feel fine during and after, but symptoms pop up the next morning, they need to regress a stage. As you can see, this process would take, at a minimum, a week to move through. So if a youth player has symptoms at school on Tuesday, they have no shot at playing that weekend. It's impossible to move through all of the progression steps in that time. Following this return to play protocol will help ensure the player's injury has fully recovered and therefore minimize the risk of a repeat occurrence.